He met his mother on the street, but he didn't go over to greet her. Instead, he turned around and walked away as if he hadn't seen her. He hated his father and mother because both his parents were deaf and mute. From a young age, he communicated with his parents using sign language. Now he was tired of this way of communication. When his mother went to school for parent-teacher meetings, he felt embarrassed by her being deaf and mute. He wanted to improve his grades, but his mother, who had never taken an exam, couldn't help him at all. Over time, the resentment and frustration built up in his heart. Why was he born into such an unfortunate family? 15 years ago, Jim was born in a small coastal town. Both of his parents were deaf and mute, but fortunately he was a normal person without defects. Because of their deafness, when young Jim cried, his mother, who was doing housework, often couldn't notice in time to detect her child's abnormalities in time. At night when they slept, his mother would tie their hands together with a rope, so that even if Jim cried in the middle of the night, his mother could notice and wake up right away. 5 years passed. At 5, Jim had learned simple sign language. When his mother had difficulty communicating with vendors while buying groceries, Jim became her translator. At this time, Jim didn't think his parents were abnormal. A year later, Jim started elementary school. He would turn on and off the lights when coming home to let his mother know he was back. One day, a salesman came to their door, but after speaking for a while, his mother had no idea what the salesman was saying. After learning that Jim's mother was deaf and mute, the salesman gave up and told Jim to keep going. After hearing this, Jim felt something strange. He didn't understand why the salesman told him to keep going. Later, Jim brought classmates home to play. Seeing his mother, who couldn't speak, his classmates were puzzled. One of them said to Jim, "Your mom is really weird." At that moment, Jim realized that his parents were different from others. After this incident, Jim became increasingly sensitive. He slowly began to feel distant from his parents. There was a parent meeting at school, but he didn't tell his mother about it. He didn't want his mother to appear in front of his classmates. When his mother found out and asked him why, he said it was because his mother couldn't hear. The next day, his mother took Jim to a dessert shop and asked if he thought it was strange for her to speak with sign language. After his mother's gentle and patient education, Jim began to try and accept the reality of his parents' abnormality. He tried to teach sign language to his classmates at school, and the classmates were all very interested and followed along to learn. But one mischievous classmate thought that people who speak with their hands are freaks. Jim's first attempt ended in failure. 9 years later, Jim was 15 years old. At this age, he was in his rebellious period. The grievances from his childhood slowly turned into self-esteem issues and disgust. One day after school, Jim came home. His mother excitedly ran over to ask him to say something. His mother had bought a hearing aid for 200,000 yen. She couldn't wait to hear what her son's voice sounded like. He repeated a few words, although she heard his voice, because she had never learned language. His mother still couldn't understand. 5 years later, Jim was 20 years old. He left the silent world he had lived in for 20 years and entered a vast world of sound.